Behind the glittering lights of Hollywood's golden age, fame often came with shadows the public never saw. The legends of the silver screen dazzled audiences with charm, beauty, and unforgettable performances. But many of them carried obsessions so strange, so bizarre, that they reveal an entirely different side to stardom. Some of these addictions to collecting were harmless quirks. Others bordered on unsettling, even disturbing. From leading men who hoarded their own hair and teeth, to glamorous icons who built shrines of diamonds and mirrored bedrooms, these hidden passions tell us more about their inner worlds than their films ever could. And as you'll see, sometimes the strangest thing about a star wasn't what they showed on screen, but what they chose to keep behind closed doors. Glenn Ford, the archivist of himself. Glenn Ford, the dashing star of Gilda and Blackboard Jungle, wasn't just a Hollywood leading man. He was also one of the most obsessive archivists Hollywood had ever seen. For more than 70 years, Ford meticulously documented his life. Not just the big career highlights, but the smallest details most people would have forgotten within hours. Starting in the early 1930s, he began writing a daily diary. Every meal, every thought, every meeting was logged. And he didn't stop there. He preserved every letter, every postcard, every scrap of correspondence he ever received, from fan mail to personal notes from fellow stars like Rita Hayworth. Ford's collection went beyond paper. He kept his own baby teeth, locks of his hair, things so personal they seemed almost unsettling. And when he passed away, the sheer scale of his collection shocked even his family. It took 2 enormous trucks to haul away his possessions for auction. But the most chilling discovery wasn't the diaries or the fan letters. It was the hundreds of secretly recorded phone conversations he kept with friends, family, even political figures like Richard Nixon. These tapes revealed a man who wasn't just obsessed with preserving his story, but controlling the very narrative of his life. For Ford, his collection wasn't nostalgia. It was power, and it painted a portrait of a man who couldn't let go of the past, even when the world around him moved on. But Glenn Ford wasn't the only star hiding behind obsession. Some legends were reshaping their very identities. Literally. Orson Welles, the nose fixation. Orson Welles, the genius behind Citizen Kane, was known for his towering presence and unmatched creativity. But behind the bravado, he carried a peculiar insecurity: his nose. Welles believed his natural nose was far too small for the grandeur of his cinematic persona, and so began one of the strangest collecting habits in Hollywood. He started amassing prosthetic noses, dozens of them, each carefully crafted, each one unique. To Welles, these weren't just props, they were works of art. He gave them names, showcased them at parties, and even incorporated them into his infamous magic tricks. As his career progressed, the noses became more exaggerated, more theatrical. He demanded custom prosthetics for nearly every role he played, reshaping himself time and time again. It might sound absurd, but for Welles, these noses were a mask, a shield against his deep insecurities. His collection was equal parts tragic and comical, a reminder that even the greatest minds can be prisoners of their own image. And while Welles was reshaping his face, another star was reshaping Hollywood itself, with diamonds. Elizabeth Taylor, the Jewel Queen. Few names shine brighter than Elizabeth Taylor. Her violet eyes, her commanding presence, her string of husbands, Taylor was larger than life, but nothing defined her more than her love affair with jewelry. By the 1950s, she had amassed one of the most famous jewelry collections in the world. Among her treasures was the 33-carat Krupp diamond, which she wore almost daily, and the jaw-dropping 69-carat Taylor Burton diamond, a stone so dazzling it became the talk of Hollywood. To Taylor, jewelry wasn't just about beauty, Each piece told a story. Some were gifts from husbands like Richard Burton, others were trophies of her own success. But deeper than that, her jewelry was her armor. In an industry that objectified women, Taylor used her collection to reclaim control. With every necklace and every ring, she transformed herself into a living work of art. When she died, her collection was auctioned for over $100 million, proof that her taste, her passion, and her obsession had become a legacy of its own. But not every star's collection sparkled. Some turned dark, twisted, and almost morbid. Peter Lorre, the Dark Collector. Peter Lorre, unforgettable as the villain in M and Casablanca, lived a life as eerie as the characters he portrayed. Behind closed doors, Lorre surrounded himself with the macabre. He collected skulls, anatomical curiosities, and unsettling artifacts. Rumors swirled that he even owned a replica of his own death mask, a chilling reminder of his mortality. His obsession was fueled in part by addiction. After becoming dependent on morphine to manage chronic pain, Lorre's fascination with death only deepened. He hoarded props from his films, especially ones that reflected his sinister persona. For Lorre, collecting wasn't just a hobby. It was a confrontation with his demons. His possessions told the story of a man who lived on the edge of darkness and sometimes couldn't find his way back. And while Lorre wrestled with the shadows, Joan Crawford fought chaos in a very different way, through cleaning. Joan Crawford, the Queen of Clean. Joan Crawford, forever remembered as one of Hollywood's most glamorous icons, harbored an obsession few would expect. She was addicted to cleaning supplies. Her fixation on cleanliness was legendary. She collected custom-made disinfectants, brushes, and specialized cloths, filling her home with an arsenal of cleaning tools. Her house wasn't just tidy, it gleamed. And Crawford didn't just supervise the staff, she often did the cleaning herself, scrubbing floors, polishing furniture, and making sure every surface reflected her own relentless pursuit of order. She cataloged her wardrobe with the same precision, ensuring every item was perfectly maintained. For Crawford, cleanliness wasn't just about appearances, it was about control. In a chaotic world, her compulsions gave her power, even if it meant becoming a prisoner of her own standards. From spotless homes, we moved to another star who couldn't stop preserving his legacy, the king of silent comedy himself. Charlie Chaplin, the collector of his own legend. Charlie Chaplin, the man who brought the Tramp to life and revolutionized silent film, was more than just a comic genius. He was also a hoarder of his own history. Chaplin carefully preserved costumes, props, and promotional materials from nearly every film he made, including his iconic bowler hat and cane. These weren't just mementos. They were a curated history, a way for Chaplin to control how the world remembered him. He saved fan letters and personal correspondence, building private archives that revealed his insecurities and perfectionism. His collection was so vast it became a goldmine for historians after his death, offering rare insight into his mind. But behind the laughter and slapstick genius was a vulnerability, a fear of being forgotten. Chaplin's obsession wasn't just about memory, it was about immortality. And speaking of immortality, Marlene Dietrich found hers in fashion. Marlene Dietrich, the fashion archivist. Marlene Dietrich, the glamorous star of the Blue Angel, dazzled audiences with elegance and allure. But behind the screen, she was meticulously building one of Hollywood's most unique collections. Dietrich saved nearly every costume she wore on film. She extended this obsession to her personal wardrobe, hoarding pieces from top designers like Christian Dior and Chanel. What makes her collection remarkable was the care she gave it. She stored her clothing in temperature-controlled conditions, treating them like relics of history. For Dietrich, fashion wasn't vanity. It was her legacy. She understood that her image was as important as her talent. After her death, her collection was donated to museums, cementing her influence on both film and fashion. While Dietrich immortalized elegance, W.C. Fields collected something far less refined. W.C. Fields, Liquor and Laughs. W.C. Fields, the comedic genius known for The Bank Dick, lived a private life that was just as colorful as his on-screen antics. His obsession? Liquor and barware. During Prohibition, Fields hoarded alcohol, enough to last decades. But his fascination went beyond drinking. He collected novelty flasks, rare barware, and drinking paraphernalia, many of them custom-made. Fields would use these items at parties, turning gatherings into performances. His home became part bar, part comedy stage, blurring the line between life and art. For Fields, his collection wasn't just about booze, it was about laughter. Even in excess, he turned obsession into entertainment. And while Fields found joy at the bottom of a glass, James Stewart found his peace in the skies. James Stewart, Planes and Passion. James Stewart, the beloved star of It's a Wonderful Life, carried a lifelong love for aviation. A decorated World War II pilot, Stewart's passion extended into his private life through an extensive collection of model airplanes. He built, painted, and displayed miniature replicas, some of planes he had flown himself, others rare models from aviation history. Stewart often spent hours at a time carefully assembling these pieces, treating the process as meditation. His collection wasn't about prestige, it was about grounding himself in something he loved. A reminder of where he came from, even as fame carried him higher than he ever imagined. But for some stars, their obsessions blurred into their darkest roles. None more so than Bela Lugosi. Bela Lugosi, the vampire's collector. Bela Lugosi, forever etched in history as Dracula, lived a private life as mysterious as his characters. He collected Dracula-related props, capes, fangs, and other memorabilia from his iconic role. But his fascination extended further, into the occult. Rare books, supernatural artifacts, and occult relics filled his personal collection. His connection to Dracula was so strong that when he passed away, he requested to be buried in one of his Dracula capes, a wish that was honored. For Lugosi, collecting wasn't just a hobby. It was a way to blur the line between performance and reality. A haunting reminder that sometimes a role can consume the man who plays it. And while Lugosi embraced the shadows, Mae West embraced a spectacle, even in her furniture. Mae West, provocative decor. Mae West, the sultry star of She Done Him Wrong, lived life on her own terms, and her collecting habits reflected her bold personality. She filled her home with custom furniture designed with provocative flair, beds carved with suggestive imagery, mirrors on nearly every surface, and her most infamous piece, a mirrored ceiling in her bedroom, a feature that became the talk of Hollywood. West worked directly with artisans to design her pieces, ensuring each reflected her unique style. Her home became a museum of her life, glamorous, outrageous, unapologetic. Her collection wasn't just about shock value, it was a declaration. Mae West would never blend in, and she wasn't alone. Other stars found comfort in equally strange but personal passions. Here's a quick-fire montage of obsessions. Clark Gable, the king of Hollywood, retreated from fame by collecting fishing gear and handcrafted lures, reminders of a simpler life outdoors. Errol Flynn, the swashbuckling rogue, collected exotic weapons, from dueling pistols to antique swords, staging mock battles for guests. Vivian Leigh, the luminous star of Gone with the Wind, amassed a rare book collection, annotating pages with her own reflections. Mickey Rooney, the energetic actor, surrounded himself with model trains, building elaborate miniature railways as a nostalgic escape. Jean Tierney, the elegant beauty, collected rare perfume bottles, ornate and hand-blown, each telling its own story. Buster Keaton, the silent film innovator, hoarded gadgets and cameras, tinkering with them to inspire new cinematic techniques. Marlon Brando, the brooding legend of The Godfather, relaxed by playing conga drums and collecting instruments, embracing rhythm and music far from the screen. These stars were worshipped as icons, immortalized by their films. But their collections, strange, obsessive, and often secret, tell us who they really were. For some, like Elizabeth Taylor, their obsessions were about power. For others, like Glenn Ford or Chaplin, it was about control over how they'd be remembered. And for figures like Peter Lorre and Bela Lugosi, their collections were windows into darker struggles. In the end, these bizarre addictions remind us of one truth: even the brightest stars carried shadows. And sometimes the strangest thing about them wasn't their fame, but the objects they couldn't bear to let go. So what do you think? Were these obsessions harmless quirks of larger-than-life personalities, or signs of something deeper, maybe even darker? Let me know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed uncovering the secrets of Hollywood's golden age, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell, because the next story might be even stranger than this one.